This is Stanford University, and I'm at the Israel Independence Day celebration. This is the 60th anniversary of Israel's Declaration of Independence. We're going to talk to some of the students involved in the celebration, find out their views on Israel and its future and its accomplishments to date. We're also going to talk to some of the anti-Israel protesters and find out what they're all about. Now, why should Americans care about Israel one way or the other? Some people say, well, it's far away, and why should we care about it? What stake do Americans have in Israel's continued existence?
The biggest stake is that it's a democracy, and not only a democracy, a partner in democracy with America, but the only democracy in the entire region. If you look at a map of the Middle East, there's a tiny little Israel and tons of totalitarian dictator regimes surrounding it. So that's a very strategic region for America. So aside from feeling some of solidarity with another democracy, especially a democracy that has given us so much in terms of military and other technology, but there's a sense of you need a strategic democratic partner in the area, and Israel is a democracy and a stabilizer in the region.
Israel still has a lot of enemies. Some people say it's facing the worst danger it's faced in decades. Do you think that Israel is responding to all the threats it's facing in an adequate way?
I think that the threat posed by the mullahs of Iran today and the ambitions of Iran to become a nuclear power in the Middle East pose the greatest existential threat to the state of Israel since 1967. Arguably since 1948, since our very independence in 1948. By allowing rockets to come over the border from Gaza into S.O.T.M.E, we are eroding our deterrence towards those who want to do us harm, and we are undermining the faith of the Israeli people in their government's ability to deliver the first and most fundamental thing which a government is supposed to deliver to its citizens, and that is security. And so we need to be responsible, we need to be controlled in our responses. We need to remember that this is a long-term struggle, a struggle that is conducted not only on the military level but also on the political level, on the public relations level. But we, to my mind, need to be more assertive in protecting our citizens' basic security.
Israel is surrounded by a lot of hostile enemies. Do you see any likelihood of a peaceful resolution, or are they going to have to fight until somebody wins and somebody loses?
No, I mean, I think that the Palestinian people and the Israeli people want very badly for there to be a peace resolution. I think, there will be a Palestinian state next to an Israeli state, and I think that day will come. It's just a question of how to get there, and I think there are specific challenges right now with Hamas, but I think that there's definitely the will of the people exists, and so I think that will continue. People will continue to strive towards that kind of peace process.
Now, some people say that Israel is undergoing an identity crisis and it has to decide what kind of country is it going to be. Is it primarily a democratic state? Is it primarily a Jewish state? And is there any contradiction between those?
No, I don't think that there is any contradiction between those two, because the country has a right to exist as a Jewish state, so all the Jews around the world will know that if they want, they have another place that they can call home, that they can feel safe everywhere they are. And also, it's obvious that we have more citizens that they are not Jewish people, and it's obvious that they need to have the same rights. They do, and this is why it's a democratic place, and I'm proud of it.
Now, I've read that many Jewish students today feel less connected to Israel than they have at times in the past. Do you notice that on the campus?
Yeah, I mean, I think on campus sometimes it's hard to voice your connection to Israel because it's seen very much as a political statement, and being supportive of Israel becomes this political statement that may make you feel ostracized or, different than a lot of other students on campus.
Now, there are people on this campus who are very anti-Israel, who demonstrate against Israel. Do you feel that you're in conflict with them, and how do you think you're doing in that struggle?
We try really hard not to see it in those terms. The way we see it, we want peace. Stanford Israel Alliance wants peace, wants a two-state solution, wants safety and security for Palestinians as well as Israelis, and we try really hard not to be antagonistic and not to blame or point fingers at the other side, but work toward a constructive solution. Students confronting apartheid in Israel, mostly points fingers at Israel for Israeli actions, and we try really hard not to engage but to show the positive side of Israel.
No pro-Israel campus event would be complete without an anti-Israel demonstration, so I walked over to the protest side and spoke to members of a group called Students Confronting Apartheid in Israel, which advocates economic divestment from the Jewish state. Now, I think the group that you work for claims that Israel is an apartheid state. Now, isn't that a false accusation, because the definition of apartheid means that the subordinate group has no political rights, no right to vote, no influence in government, while in Israel there are over a million Arab citizens who have the rights of citizenship. They do vote. There are Arab Knesset members, there are Arab judges. So isn't it an untrue accusation to say that Israel is an apartheid state?
That's a great question. So you're referring to Israel proper, and we are referring to the occupied Palestinian territories, in which 4 of our 5 divestment criteria have to do with things like the wall, which separates Palestinians from the ability to reach their schools, their jobs, and their homes.
Well, wasn't that created in order to keep suicide bombers out?
That's what they say, but in actuality, the Hamas ceasefire was the reason that suicide bombings went down so dramatically, not the apartheid wall.
When you talk about occupation, that goes to the question of who really owns the land. What is the basis of the Arab claim to the land, and why is it superior to the Jewish claim?
I personally am not a religious person, so everything that has to do with religion I'll put aside. But I'll speak historically. The Palestinian people are not simply Arab people. The Palestinian people are a mixture of all the cultures that have been in Palestine throughout history. So a study at New York University, for example, showed that Palestinians genetically are closer to the Jewish people than the original Jewish Semites than European Jewry, and so that's the system. But Palestinians have evolved. Now they're a mixture of Arab background, Jewish background, some European background from when the Crusaders came into Palestine, and they have been there for generations. Now their religions may have changed. My great-great-grandfather may have been Jewish, and then he may have become Christian, and then he may have become Muslim. But I don't believe that's how you calculate land. I believe land belongs to everyone, and I believe people should share the land.
What's the status of your human rights if you're a Palestinian living in the Gaza Strip and you want to say something favorable about Israel?
So I think, first of all, it's not a fair thing to say that all Palestinians are one way, all Palestinians feel one way, or all Palestinians have one opinion towards Israel or Palestine. Additionally, I am for human rights for everyone. That includes Israelis and Palestinians. And unfortunately, Stanford and the U.S. is funding the Israeli ability to commit human rights abuses, and that's why we do have a heightened culpability to fight that.
Do you think that the entire burden of solving this conflict rests on Israel alone, or do you think that the Arab side needs to do anything to make peace possible?
Israel and the U.S. are the colonizing forces in this situation, so they hold the power, and therefore most of the responsibility rests on them. Certainly some would rest on Arab leaders as well, but the majority is on Israel and America.
For a number of years now, the main item in the news has been the proposed two-state solution, where there's a Jewish state and an Arab state, and an end to hostilities is declared. Do you favor that concept?
I think that concept is possible and could be possible in the beginning, but I personally believe Israel is unwilling and cannot remove the settlers and everything it has done in the West Bank from there. Most recently, S.O.T.M.E and Levni provided a new draft of a map to the Palestinian president, Mahmoud Abbas. And I was looking at that map. Israel refuses to give up the main settlement blocks, and it refuses to give up the Jordan Valley. Now, Israel's refusal to give these two parts up, the settlements, the bypass roads, and the Jordan Valley, means that we will have a Palestinian state which is not contiguous. And that's, that's wrong.
Finally, I asked a pro-Israel supporter about Israel's red lines, and if he thought that there was anything that Israel should absolutely refuse to give up, no matter what the effect on peace negotiations.
Absolutely. I think that we should not negotiate over the splitting of Jerusalem. We should not negotiate over the Golan Heights. I think Jerusalem is the bedrock of Jewish identity. We have brought religious freedom, freedom of expression, freedom of worship, and prosperity to this city, and it should remain under Israeli sovereignty as the undivided capital of the Jewish people, with access to Muslims and Christians, access to sites of worship, but it should remain in the hands of Israel.